knowledge for all my peoples locked down and my peoples on the street that know what that real hip-hop is.
Oh my God, Keith Murray, you could have been big, nigga. You could have been a big star, my nigga. You fucked up, man.
My lines be hotter than Mars. I'm an MC, Gumar, Oz, Dubar. Yo, my flow is an anti-toxic serum. Germ MCs can't flow, you can't compare them.
Your little nephew Earl and your auntie Pearl and Kaiba friend. I can do the biz. Tommy, Mike and Little Louie, David, Baby Chewy. Them niggas will never do me.
I bomb retardedly, cold-heartedly, with no apology. Overkill, ain't no stopping me. Tell it properly when you tell the story.
Damn! Dun, 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 dun. You can't fuck with me. I was honest hardcore when the realest member in the group succeeds ain't even in the group no more.
Yo, my lines stick in your minds like when you shot and the doctor can't get the bullet out sometimes.
Get the trash black body bags. He believers don't lie so much he could beat the polygraph. You ain't gangster, nigga, stop lying. I blow steam, leaving permanently pressed with the hot iron. I ain't buying what you selling. And since your brain on drugs, I'm shooting up your cerebellum. I'm selling dwelling, it's about to get organ here. We in Brooklyn, I know we got some dogs in here.
Flame throw you over, it's over, like Hover. Pulling off in a 4.6 Rover, holla.
Fucking with all that dust and shit, man.
Keith Omar Murray, born May 29th, 1974. Eradication, psychosomatically, genetics, scientifically, hypothesis, symbolic, sacroiliac. What rapper you know is using words like that in his rhymes without coming off obligatory, unsatisfactory, ridiculously impractical, or ill-advised? You see what I tried to do there, Keith? But even when I do my best Keith Murray impression, it doesn't stand up to what this genius of a rapper did beginning over 30 years ago, using words on a beat and microphone. I say this a lot, that this rapper or that rapper could have been the best ever if this or that didn't happen, but Keith Murray is seriously the embodiment of that statement. I didn't grow up on Keith Murray. In fact, I'd even say I was late to the party on his music and more his story. But I can remember the day in college I was introduced to his songs right before our homecoming game and haven't taken it out of my rotation ever since. I shot 2 for 19 that game and missed a game-tying free throw. Thank you, Keith. But that's not the point. The point is, in the 90s, Keith Murray had it all. His voice was one of a kind to me, even though I can't help but picture Redman when I hear it and vice versa. And Redman is an interesting comparison because when I think back about Keith Murray, Redman should have been at least the floor of what his ceiling should have been, as talented as he was. He was also arguably a top 10 lyricist of the 90s bar for bar in my opinion. I'll even give you my list right now. Biggie, Nas, Jay-Z, Tupac, Raekwon, Andre 3000, DMX, Method Man, Busta Rhymes, and Keith Murray. Besides that, if you listen to his songs right now, they'll still give you that feel it did in the 90s and was the perfect representation of New York hip-hop in that era. His beat selection was also top-notch, even if I feel his hooks could have been better, and his persona was unpredictable, energetic, and believable all in one. I speak highly of Keith Murray and waited a long time to even wrap my mind around doing this video, but his growth stunts deserve to be told. What he went through in the music industry and life is still relatable to rappers today and may help at least one aspiring rapper not to make the same mistakes because, like Fredro Star said, Keith Murray could have been a star. Unfortunately, these things happened and his star fell far from that. Here's why. Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. MC Do Damage, aka Keith Murray, is a lyricist from Long Island, New York that knew since he was 16 years old he wanted to pursue a rap career. He made his rounds locally, running with the Legion of Doom, or LOD as they were known in the area early 90s, until he met Eric Sermon in 93. Sermon was impressed with Keith's lyrical ability and that he could seemingly freestyle for hours without making much mistake. Any room he entered, he was immediately the center of attention, even if he was embarrassing himself. Erick Sermon noticed the star Keith was and put him on his debut album twice, including the lead single Hostile. Jive Records heard the record and decided to give Murray a solo deal, and his career as a mainstream artist in 1 year officially began. The label moved quickly with Murray as they took his standout line on the Hostile single, "The Most Beautifulest Thing in the World," and made that into a song that became his first single and album title.
The most beautifulest thing in this world is just like that.
Stunt number 1, the Barstool Assault. Keith Murray, at the time of his first single, was on fire and on top of New Whips and the rap game. At least one of the bright spots in 1994. His album went gold in under a year behind the Most Beautifulest Thing single and Keith Murray's energy as an entertainer. It also received 4 mics in the source, which was deemed high standard at the time, one notch under being labeled a classic. Between his first album and follow-up 1996 Enigma project, Keith Murray was everywhere from R&B to controversial songs with LL Cool J and Biggie Smalls. His potential was through the roof, and he was just starting to be recognized as an MC to pay attention to. The right moves from here on out, along with a focused Keith Murray on the mic, could have yielded favorable results. On an underground, respect of his peers level, his music after his first album did, although he never reached that peak in sales again. His second album, released in 1996, led by the single The Rhyme, which is easily one of my favorite Murray songs. It was critically respected, but sold well under what his first album did. Then right before his third album dropped, he turned himself in to police to begin serving a 3-year bid for an assault in a bar that left a teenager seriously injured. Back in 1995, Keith Murray was in a bar and got into an altercation with a club promoter. The situation turned physical, and the promoter's 16-year-old brother got in between the two, attempting to break up the fight, seeing as he came to the club to see Keith Murray, who was fighting his brother. Murray, allegedly not knowing who the kid was, struck him with a metal bar stool, causing a 12-inch stitch on the boy's face and other injuries, including emotional distress. Murray was arrested and convicted for the incident in '96 and sentenced to 3 years. Allowed to begin his sentence at a later date, Murray went on the run for a month past the date he was supposed to turn himself in. He eventually did that October 26, 1998, and began his 3-year bid. Those years took Keith away from a chance to promote an important third album, which would be his final on Jive Records and the beginning of the fall-off. Stunt number 2, another violent setback. Murray was released from prison in 2001 and was quickly scooped up by Def Jam with the help of Erick Sermon because he needed the money, according to him, but wouldn't put out another album until 2003, He's Keith Murray. It included the single Yeah Yeah You Know It with classic Just Blaze production and high-budget signature Def Jam music video. But just a day after the album's release, Murray was dropped from the label because of an alleged altercation with 2 Def Jam employees, one of which wrote a letter to Def Jam saying he couldn't work around Murray any longer because he felt threatened. With everything the label was going through with the FBI and Murder Inc., they quickly decided to part ways with Keith Murray. It was his one last chance at becoming the star he was supposed to, and he blew it because of his anger. According to Keith, it wasn't a physical altercation, and he barely had a verbal jousting with the employee who lied to the label and got him fired, essentially. After, reports were that Keith Murray fell into Great Depression and began to use hard drugs, which he admitted to in an interview with ThisIs50.com. When he returned, you could see the effects of the hard life after his Def Jam release, and musically, he was just never the same. Stunt number 3, going independent. Other than the Def Jam altercation, Keith Murray had also requested the label release him prior to. He saw the amount of artists on the label and knew he needed more focus on him, seeing as he'd missed precious development time while in prison, so asked Kevin Liles for his release. The alleged fight with the employee was just the perfect timing. After, Keith decided he wanted to focus on getting more profit for his work and went independent. He knew it may not have been the smartest move for his career notoriety-wise, but at least he could earn more while giving up the fame. He decided that his fifth album would be distributed by Koch Records, and the album came and went chart-wise, but some say it may be Murray's best work. But by that time, his run was over as far as potential on the mainstream level, and his music releases stopped for over a decade until he released 2 more underperforming projects in 2018 and 2019. Independently, he wasn't able to move his career forward on his own financially, and that was the end of Keith Murray's chances to be what many saw him becoming. Also, being independent in those times without social media and internet presence made his career move in quicksand until his name was forgotten. All in all, Keith Murray had a troubled 90s and early 2000s run that wasn't expected by anyone and showed that maybe Murray needed serious help with his anger, drugs, and also sound advice career-wise. Nowadays, when his name is mentioned, it's connected to a brilliant lyricist that fell off in all the ways he didn't think mattered. He still had a solid run, and if you remember Keith Murray, consider yourself one of the fortunate few. Salute to Keith, much respect, but for these reasons, his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.